Make sure to switch off the TV and either turn off the lights in the living room or your bedroom. Understood? We need to conserve electricity. I reminded my family before heading out for some distance shopping. Whether we're leaving or staying home, we're all dedicated to energy conservation, diligently turning off lights and adjusting the air conditioner. Today was no exception. We exchanged reminders as I left. However, upon returning a few hours later, our once familiar home had transformed entirely. You're all about saving, right? Well, I'm saving electricity for you, echoed Amelia's sinister laughter. Sneaking in unnoticed, Amelia had tampered with our home's breaker, causing a major disruption. And the reason behind her mischievous act was, my name is Emma. At the age of 29, I tied the knot with Liam, my partner of the same age, and settled into my in-laws' residence. Sadly, my mother-in-law had already passed away, leaving my father-in-law, James, who suffered from a respiratory illness, to live alone. At Liam's urging, concerned for his father's well-being, I agreed to move in and continue with my job. Sharing the house was Amelia, James's unmarried sister, with whom I never quite found harmony. James, much like Liam, was a gentle and kind soul, while Amelia proved to be quite the opposite, volatile and temperamental. My straightforward nature often clashed with hers, but due to my seniority, I somehow managed to maintain a semblance of order. Aside from the occasional friction with Amelia, life in the household was tranquil. However, within 6 months, James's health took a turn for the worse. His condition necessitated the constant use of an oxygen machine, rendering him unable to be left alone during the day. Both Amelia and I held jobs, leaving no one to provide care for James in our absence. Although the logical solution would have been to arrange for his care in a specialized facility, James adamantly refused to leave the home that held cherished memories of his late wife. After much deliberation with Liam, we decided that forcing James to leave would be too cruel. Instead, we opted to hire a caregiver to assist him at home. Little did we know, this decision would unravel into a host of new challenges. Already at odds with me, Amelia harbored a strong aversion to strangers entering her domain and took to harassing the caregiver. Unbeknownst to us, she became verbally abusive and sarcastic, impeding their duties and lodging repeated complaints with the agency, questioning their competence in caring for her father. By the time we discerned the root of the issue, several caregivers had resigned, and the agency informed us that they could no longer send replacements. Frustration brewed as other agencies turned us away, likely due to our tarnished reputation. It seemed we had been blacklisted, all thanks to Amelia. With our prospects for external assistance dashed, we were left to devise a solution. Amelia, ever self-absorbed, had distanced herself from the family dynamic. Despite my husband's attempts to intervene as her brother, their interactions only fueled heated disputes, ultimately prompting him to suggest she find her own living arrangements. This suggestion, however, further incensed Amelia, leading her to vent her grievances to me, perhaps perceiving me as a less formidable adversary than her brother. Overhearing the expectation placed on me as a daughter-in-law to care for James, while my husband was expected to continue working, ignited yet another dispute between us. This tense situation deprived James of the peaceful recovery he deserved. Refusing to succumb to Amelia's pressures, yet unwilling to simply stand aside, I found myself torn. Grateful for James' efforts to welcome me into the family despite his illness, I made the decision to resign from my job and devote myself to his care. Though daunting, I resolved to gradually acquire the skills of caregiving, recognizing James as part of my own family. As I made the commitment to step into the role of caregiver, James and my husband expressed their gratitude with tears of appreciation. Learning the ropes of caregiving from scratch proved to be a formidable challenge, yet James consistently offered words of encouragement, easing my journey despite the inevitable struggles. However, amidst this transformation, one constant remained: Amelia. Despite neither contributing to household chores nor assisting with caregiving responsibilities, she made no move to vacate the premises. On her days off, she would vanish, seemingly absorbed in her own pursuits. Despite my newfound availability, My time was consumed by James's care and my studies in caregiving. While my husband and I shared the burden of household tasks, any oversight on our part was swiftly met with Amelia's complaints. Emma's decided to take on both caregiving and housework, hasn't she? Seems like you prefer handling everything yourself. Amelia's taunting remarks echoed whenever I dared to assert myself. Any hint of pushback was met with her unpleasant retaliation. Despite her relentless harassment, she was inevitably discovered and reprimanded by my husband and others. Each time, she'd adopt the guise of the victim, asserting, "James is too kind to speak up, so I'm doing it for him." Predictably, this pattern persisted, exacerbating the stress of managing household tasks under her constant interference. Gratitude filled my heart for the caregivers who persevered, maintaining their composure and providing care for James despite Amelia's disruptions. Not only myself, but James and the rest of the household grew weary of her persistent attitude. Then, one day, as my husband and I quietly discussed strategies to encourage her independence, Amelia abruptly announced, "I'm engaged and I'm moving out. Goodbye, Dad. I'll visit occasionally." With those words, she departed from the house. Amelia's sudden departure left us pleasantly surprised, and with her tumultuous presence gone, the atmosphere in the house settled. James's advancing age and health concerns prompted discussions about relocating him to a care facility. However, as I grew more accustomed to caregiving, we opted to persist with home care services. Despite living with her fiancé, Amelia made frequent visits back home. "I'm sure there'll be leftovers from dinner tonight. Pack them up in Tupperware. I'll take them with me," she casually remarked, evidently relying on our meals to spare herself the effort of cooking for her partner. Her self-centered attitude persisted, treating me as though I were still her personal maid. "Amelia, don't boss around without lending a hand yourself," I retorted. Yeah, sorry, Emma. That's enough lecturing, right? Hurry up with dinner." She dismissed James's reprimand with a nonchalant shrug. In truth, the quantity of food I prepared hadn't changed much since her departure, so that wasn't the main issue. Instead, the concern lay in the escalating food and utility expenses. Despite no longer contributing financially, Amelia's frequent returns and lack of restraint strained our budget further. Additionally, she displayed no regard for conserving electricity or money, compounding our financial challenges. "Amelia, could you please turn off the lights in the unused rooms? And if you're not using the shower, can I go ahead?" I requested, noticing her engrossed in her mobile phone, lying on the couch with the TV still on behind her. The lights in both the bathroom and changing room were left on, suggesting she intended to shower but showed no signs of moving. Her disregard for unnecessary electricity usage and her lingering presence hindered everyone in the household. When I pressed her to choose between gaming and showering, Amelia shot me an angry glare. "Don't tell me what to do. I was just about to go. You're always nagging about saving money, but it hardly makes a difference. You're so petty, Auntie," she retorted defiantly. "What'd you just call me?" I questioned, taken aback. "I called you Emma." "Don't act like you misheard and get all worked up," she replied sharply. Despite James's scolding, Amelia begrudgingly turned off the TV and made her way to the changing room. Though she often complained, at least she listened to our requests. However, despite her years of experience and engagement, her mindset remained stubbornly youthful, resembling that of a rebellious child. While I had ceased expecting her to mature, I found it tolerable. Unfortunately, even after her departure from the household, our relationship with Amelia remained strained. I had hoped that our shared goal of saving money could serve as common ground for our family, but it appeared increasingly unlikely. On a particular day, I found myself driving to a sprawling shopping mall located far from our home, tasked with an errand for James. James, unable to venture outside without his portable oxygen tank, relied on me to run such errands. Carrying the weighty tank, even with a carrier, proved burdensome for him, and the visible tubes drew unwelcome pity from acquaintances. Consequently, James preferred to remain at home to avoid the constant sympathetic glances. While my husband typically handled errands when he was present, ensuring James was never left unattended, circumstances demanded that I undertake the task alone this time. Though apprehensive, I knew James was far from helpless. His reliance on the oxygen tank was primarily for breathing assistance, and he remained capable of managing many tasks independently. Before setting off, I reminded James to use the air conditioning as needed, emphasizing the importance of conserving electricity. With that, I embarked on my shopping trip, which proceeded without incident. Upon returning home with the groceries several hours later, I noticed the time had slipped from the early morning to evening. Upon speaking with the doctor, my husband learned that James's advanced age may have dulled his sensitivity to the heat, and the trembling hands and headache were initially dismissed as typical signs of aging. However, the occurrence of convulsions prompted immediate medical attention and subsequent hospitalization for thorough testing, leading to the current state of affairs. Upon receiving this explanation from my husband, I dared to pose a bold question. It's highly unlikely that the power source for the device would fail. Didn't we take precautions to ensure the plug couldn't be accidentally disconnected? My husband's brow furrowed as he delved into deep thought. You're right. It's improbable for it to come unplugged on its own. I went back home to double-check, and the plug was still securely in place, he confirmed. Then how? I trailed off, perplexed by my husband's revelation. He had returned home to make arrangements for James's hospitalization and discovered that despite the power outage, the plug remained intact. His gaze then sharpened as he turned towards Amelia. It was evident she was concealing something, but I couldn't comprehend the reason behind his sudden anger. Abruptly, my husband erupted, directing his frustration at Amelia. You cut off the breaker, didn't you? Speak up, Amelia. My husband's voice cut through the tense silence. Startled, Amelia began to tremble, attempting to form words that refused to materialize audibly. My husband then produced something from his pocket, an item that had prompted the hospital to repeatedly try contacting us all, with him being the first to receive the call. Upon returning home to prepare for James's hospitalization, my husband had immediately sensed something amiss. Upon opening the door, he was met with an oppressive wave of heat. The entrance hall remained shrouded in darkness, the lights unresponsive. Realizing the power outage extended throughout the house, he conducted a thorough inspection, confirming that all electrical appliances were indeed switched off. Rushing to the breaker, he found it deliberately turned off, a discovery that left him both surprised and suspicious. Recalling our home's security measures, including installed cameras from a previous burglary incident, my husband resolved to investigate further. Despite our cost-saving efforts, the security cameras had been retained for the safety of everyone in the household, with strict instructions not to remove them. He reasoned that footage leading up to the power outage might provide crucial insight. Hastily restoring power, he proceeded to review the recordings. I have the footage here. I transferred it to show both of you in the hospital room, my husband announced, pulling out his mobile phone. With a few taps, he displayed the transferred footage. The scene unfolded with a familiar view of our house's entrance, minutes after my departure. To my astonishment, Amelia made an unexpected appearance, catching my eye involuntarily. Using her key, she entered the house, her demeanor oddly cautious, as if she were ensuring I was truly gone. My husband then shifted the footage to a camera positioned inside the entrance. Our house's breaker is located near the ceiling, above the shoe rack, he explained. We watched in disbelief as Amelia, using a chair intended for putting on shoes, reached up and opened the breaker's cover. What on earth are you doing? I couldn't help but scream, though I anticipated her actions. The camera, equipped with sound recognition, captured her ominous whispers amidst the movement noises. This is the breaker, right? If the fridge stops, Emma will calm down a bit. Her chilling laughter reverberated through the otherwise silent hospital room. Consider it my gift to you, your favorite. With that, the footage concluded. The realization that Amelia had deliberately shut off the breaker left us all speechless and immobile. With the breaker off, the entire house's power supply had ceased, undoubtedly causing the contents of the fridge to spoil in the hours before my husband's discovery. Her frantic entrance into the hospital room betrayed her lack of awareness regarding the potential danger she had placed James in. It felt like a cruel form of punishment directed at me. Yet her subsequent response was beyond belief. "It's because of your constant badgering about saving electricity," Amelia retorted, tears streaming down her face as she sought to justify her actions. "I didn't know James was home. I assumed he had gone out with you. You're the one to blame for leaving him behind," she reiterated, showing no remorse. I never anticipated this outcome. Her tearful defense only stoked my anger. Sneaking in like a thief to switch off the breaker, James surviving was nothing short of a miracle. What if something had happened to Dad? Despite my urge to blame Amelia, she vehemently fired back. "But it's your fault." Retrieving my mobile phone before entering the house, I anticipated a message from my husband regarding dinner plans. However, what greeted me on the screen left me stunned. Numerous missed calls from both my husband and James, indicating they had been trying to reach me urgently. A chill ran down my spine as I realized my phone had been set to silent mode while driving, and in my haste to return home promptly, I had neglected to switch it back, oblivious to the incoming calls. An ominous sense of foreboding washed over me. Hastily, I attempted to call my husband, but the line remained unanswered, amplifying my growing anxiety. With trembling fingers, I dialed James's number as a last resort, hoping for a reassuring response. I dialed the hospital's number, my heart pounding with apprehension. When the receptionist answered, I struggled to maintain composure as I inquired about James's condition. "James is currently hospitalized. I'm unable to provide further details over the phone. Would you be able to come to the hospital?" The receptionist informed me. After being transferred to several departments, I received the unsettling news and felt a wave of dread wash over me. "I'm on my way," I responded hurriedly, quickly turning the key in the ignition to restart the car. The vehicle seemed to echo my urgency as I navigated through the congested streets. James had been perfectly fine when I left, bidding me farewell as usual. I couldn't shake the regret of leaving him alone, wondering how he had ended up in the hospital so suddenly. Upon arriving at the hospital, I followed the directions to the designated room, tension gripping every step down the corridor. Quietly pushing open the door, I was met with the unexpected sight of my husband, whom I had been unable to reach. We exchanged surprised glances, and he explained that he had been at the hospital waiting for James's test results, which accounted for his unavailability. "I couldn't get through to you either," he added. "It's all right. So how is James?" he inquired, prompting me to turn my gaze towards the bed where James lay sleeping. Though his complexion seemed slightly pale, his breathing, my primary concern, appeared steady. "He's all right. There's nothing to worry about. He's here for some routine tests," I replied, a sense of relief washing over me. Upon hearing my husband's reassurance that James was out of danger, a wave of relief washed over me. However, the question of why James had been hospitalized lingered on the tip of my tongue. Before I could voice my inquiry, the room's door swung open with a sudden force. Amelia rushed in, her eyes wide with fear, paying no heed to our presence as she darted straight to James's bedside. Upon seeing him lying there, she let out a piercing scream. "What happened, Dad?" Her voice echoed with panic, prompting my husband to rush to her side in an attempt to soothe her. "Please, Amelia, calm down," he urged gently, attempting to ease her away from the bed. Eventually, her frantic cries subsided, only to be replaced by a glare directed squarely at me, followed by a torrent of accusatory words. "What were you doing while you were with him?" Her intense emotion overwhelmed me, leaving me speechless as my husband intervened, attempting to defuse the situation. However, Amelia's anger remained squarely focused on me. Caught in a whirlwind of confusion, I struggled to comprehend the situation unfolding before me. James required oxygen, but the sudden hospitalization seemed inexplicable. "Can we please discuss this calmly?" My husband's composed voice cut through the tension, offering an explanation based on what he knew. James had been brought to the hospital because the power to his oxygen device had been inadvertently switched off. While I was away, James had been resting in his room when a power outage occurred, disrupting his oxygen supply. Awakened by a sudden bout of breathlessness, James frantically attempted to restart his oxygen device, only to find it unresponsive. Unable to reach either myself or my husband, he resorted to connecting a portable tank to ease his distress, though lingering anxiety gnawed at him in our absence. Beset by a throbbing headache, James resolved to seek medical attention at the hospital, a task typically facilitated by us. However, his trembling hands rendered even the simple act of dialing a taxi challenging. Faced with this predicament, James ventured to seek assistance from nearby neighbors to summon a taxi. The sight of him at their doorstep elicited a startled scream from one of the residents. Hurriedly ushered indoors, James was laid down and provided with ice packs to alleviate his discomfort as they awaited the arrival of emergency services. It was during this waiting period that James came to the realization that he had succumbed to heat stroke. Following prompt and appropriate treatment at the hospital, James's condition stabilized, ensuring his safety. James wouldn't be in this situation if not for you. Her accusations piercing my heart. Perhaps leaving James alone was indeed my mistake. Was assuming he wouldn't want to accompany me too far a misguided decision. The tension in the hospital room thickened until, unexpectedly, James broke the silence. Enough! He scolded firmly, though his voice was weakened by illness, his inherent calm shattered by the situation. His sudden outburst caught us all off guard, our attention shifting to him in unison. Do you even realize the gravity of your actions? You've caused distress for everyone and nearly cost me my life. James's eyes glinted with a mix of anger and disappointment. His typically gentle demeanor was replaced by a stern tone, jolted awake by Amelia's loud protests and the tumult in the room. He had heard everything, including the discussion about the surveillance cameras. If you're going to continue causing such a disturbance, you might as well leave and never return to this house, he admonished sharply. Amelia's complexion paled, and she froze momentarily before bursting into loud sobs, which only added to the disquiet. Despite her apologies, James insisted on her departure, and my husband escorted her out of the room. James was discharged from the hospital just a few days later. When we arrived to collect him, he greeted us with a smile, appearing to have recovered well. However, upon returning home, Amelia awaited us at the front door. It was the first time she had shown herself since the incident. While we anticipated an apology, her words echoed those from before. It's your fault. All of this is because of you, and James's suffering is on your hands. Both James and my husband were exasperated, unwilling to accept responsibility and continuing to lay blame on me. James took a step forward. Consider yourself fortunate that I'm not involving the authorities because you're family. But make no mistake, your actions are utterly inexcusable. His voice, as cold as it was in the hospital room, remained unchanged, leaving Amelia silenced. But James's condemnation didn't end there. It was apparent that he harbored a deep-seated disdain for her. Consider this disavowment. It's astounding that you still fail to grasp the gravity of your actions. Stay away from our home, he pronounced with vehemence, pushing past Amelia and striding forcefully into the house. Caught off guard, she stood there in stunned disbelief, not anticipating such severe consequences from her father. Standing firmly by James's side, we followed him inside, leaving Amelia behind. Despite her subsequent attempts at apology, James remained steadfast, refusing to acknowledge her efforts. Having been troubled by her actions one too many times, we offered no sympathy and upheld James's decision. Requests for financial support for Amelia's wedding and honeymoon were met with staunch refusal from James, who also declared his intention to abstain from attending the ceremony. In a desperate bid to salvage the situation, Amelia cornered me outside the house one day, pleading for forgiveness and urging me to intercede with James on her behalf. However, I had already resolved not to grant her forgiveness. Knowing her tendencies to resist or ignore, I listened quietly before walking away, leaving her to grapple with the consequences of her actions. As word of the family rift spread, Amelia's fiancé grew perplexed by James's refusal to attend the wedding, prompting him to reach out to James in search of answers. Unaware of the full extent of the situation, Amelia's fiancé was taken aback upon learning about the emergency caused by her actions. Hastily, he extended his apologies to James. Unlike Amelia, he displayed sound judgment, labeling her actions as nothing short of attempted murder. Consequently, the wedding plans came to an abrupt halt. Despite not having moved into their new home yet, her fiancé canceled their arrangements and ejected Amelia from his life. Left reeling from the fallout, Amelia found herself in dire financial straits. Having already quit her job and depleted her savings on beauty treatments and wedding preparations, she was left virtually penniless to shoulder the financial burden of the canceled wedding. Amidst Amelia's turmoil, she didn't seek solace at our doorstep. Meanwhile, the three of us found solace in a newfound tranquility in her absence. James's health appeared to be on an upward trajectory, though we remained cautious given his age. At present, the idea of a care facility seemed unnecessary. In fact, we were even contemplating a trip, relishing in the prospect of peaceful days ahead.